Hello there, this is David from David Books and Comics, and today I want to talk about the Elric Saga Part 1, and this is the 1985 edition. And it features these three books: Elric of Melnibone, and Sailor on the Seas of Fate, and The Weird of the White Wolf. And this was published in 1984. This edition, this is the Gollancz paperback edition of Elric of Melnibone. Features this is an order, the order of books that Michael Moorcock, obviously the creator of the series. This is the Eternal Champion, Volume 8, and you can see Fortress of Pearl is included. And in the Elric Saga, published by the Science Fiction Book Club, Fortress of Pearl is here in this book. But anyways, this is the order that I read it in, and it's probably better than the order that it's written in here. So the Elric of Melnibone story was published back in 1973, I think. So the three novels. So this first volume was published, like I said, in 84. The books include the first part, Elric of Melnibone, the Sailor on the Seas of Fate, and Weird of the White Wolf, which read like fixed-up novelettes. And if you look at the Gollancz edition, you see the naming of these novelettes. So The Dreaming City is one, and Wild God's Laugh, and The Singing Citadel. The first novel introduces us to the brooding and grim albino protagonist, Elric, king and ruler of Melnibone. The scheming Yirkun, who becomes the arch-villain of the piece, and Elric's true love interest, which is Cymril, and some wonderful supporting characters. And for me, the supporting characters are what makes the series work. There's a character called Tanglebones, who's mentioned in the first volume a few times. Dr. Jest, who's the resident torturer in the kingdom of Imrer, which is that island that the Melniboneans come from. Let's see if I can find it in the map. Yeah, so there's Melnibone, Imrer. That's the Dreaming City. And the Divum Tvar, who's the kind of the Admiral General of the Melnibonean army, and also introduced is Rakhir, the Red Archer. So the story follows Elric as he's forced to meet a challenge to his power. In all this, the Melniboneans are introduced as a long-reigning empire that is now in decline. So the corruption is described as being inherent in this race of people who are sorcerers who have traditionally served the lords of chaos. So the story follows Elric and how he is weak and dependent on herbs and drugs to sustain him, and how he's challenged by Yirkun, and how he acquires his rune sword, Stormbringer. There's also a battle, I don't want to say too much about that, a battle with Yirkun and his discovery of the rune sword, Mournblade. The next novel, that's Sailor on the Seas of Fate, has the words, is divided into three parts. That's sailing into the past, sailing into the present, and sailing into the future. And there are sea battles, fought against both ships and monsters. And here we are introduced to another friendly character named Smjorgen. For Elric, the supporting characters give him feelings that make him appear more human. And the interesting thing about Sailor on the Seas of Fate is that it introduces the other eternal champions. So you hear and see brief mention of Coram, and I believe, if I remember correctly, Dorian Hawkmoon is also in it. In the last novel, that's Weird of the White Wolf, is a wonderful novel with various female love interests that our lead protagonist Elric runs into, and a delightful supporting character in Moonglum. Moonglum, like Smjorgen and Rakir, are surprisingly loyal to Elric, despite his kind of brooding and moodiness. In this volume, the rhythm and tempo of the story flows very easily, even though it reads like a fix-up. So it includes these stories: Dreaming City, Wild Gods Laugh, and Singing Citadel. So we are also introduced in this novel to the lords of the higher world, the balance, and this eternal struggle between law and chaos, which seems to be a recurring theme in Moorcock's writing. And one of the interesting things that you find out is, I think it's in page 79, not in this one, but in this one. And it gives you a sense of the kind of character that Elric is. And I'll read it to you because some people always refer to him as an anti-hero. So this paragraph I found interesting. And it corresponds to what I understand Moorcock's sense of Elric is. It says here, long centuries ago, I, Lord Dawnblast, the Justice Maker, came to Nadsokor to free it from the grip of chaos. But I came too late. Evil brought more evil, as evil will, and I could not interfere too much with the affairs of mortals. For we of law have sworn to let mankind make its own destiny, if that is possible. Yet the cosmic balance swings now like a pendulum of a clock, with a broken spring and terrible forces at work on the earth. Thou, Elric, art a servant of chaos, yet thou hast served law more than once. It has been said that the destiny of mankind rests within thee, and that may be true. Thus I aid thee, though I do so against mine own oath. So obviously Elric is more than, unwittingly, he's more than just a pawn of the Lords of Chaos. Unwittingly, he works on the side of law and justice. So obviously, I think, from what I understand from Moorcock's essays and many of his introductions to things like this, and in the last volume in the Daw editions, Elric at the End of Time, if you read more about Elric and more about what Moorcock intended for the character, you get a different sense that he's more than just an anti-hero. So in this volume, the rhythm and tempo of the story flows easily, and we're also introduced to these lords of the higher world and this struggle between law and chaos. So this theme first appears in the Elric story in the Singing Citadel, as I showed you, published in 1967. The other two novellas were actually published before, in 1961. And the first novel was Elric of Melnibone, was first published in 1972. The sequencing in the book, Elric Saga, was created by the author, by Moorcock. The Fortress of Pearl, as I showed, which appears in this volume, in the science fiction paperback, and appears in this volume as the second story after Elric of Melnibone. Right after Elric of Melnibone, Moorcock continues to write Elric novels and puts them in his own chronological order. So, if we can look at this volume, which is the last one that he wrote, and this one was just published just recently. Beautiful end papers. And first edition, 2022. So this one is one of the most satisfying Elric novels I have ever read thus far, because it reads like the first three novels, and this really follows the Daw editions. And these are the Daws. So Elric, the first novel, Sailor on the Seas of Fate, and Weird of the White Wolf are the most, for my money, they're the most satisfying of all the Elric novels. And this one I'm also enjoying, because it also follows the next three of the Daw editions, which is Vanishing Tower, Bane of the Black Sword, and Stormbringer. And I'm happy to say that this novel, which I've already read, also follows the same tradition of the initial Elric stories. They basically, what he does is he goes back to his roots and introduces and reintroduces Elric for a new generation. Elric as he was when I first read him way back, and this is the actual volume of the novel that I first read. This one came out in 1979, and I bought it when I was still in my teens. 19. Bought it off the rack from a local science fiction store. And thoroughly enjoyed it. And I ended up collecting the other British editions. This is their titles, the British titles, and this is The Stealer of Souls. And interesting thing, it includes The Dreaming City, While the Gods Laugh, The Stealer of Souls, Kings in Darkness, and Flamebringers, which are, they were all published originally in science fantasy by John Carnell was the editor. And Moorcock often credits him as the one who inspired him to write these novels, these stories. They read like novellas in the sequence that he gives. These two stories, Kings in Darkness and Flamebringers, if my memory is correct, is not included in the Elric Saga. So one of the frustrating things about Moorcock is that he moves his stories as in sequence and out of sequence. And this is the other volume. This is The Singing Citadel. And this one looks like it was published in '62. It has Singing Citadel, Master of Chaos, The Greater Conqueror, and To Rescue Tanalorn. And this is the last novel that I read. So this is the original sequence that I read it in. All right. So I'm thoroughly enjoying rereading his Elric Saga. You know, one of the things about Moorcock is he puts the Eternal Champion universe, and you can pretty much read any of the stories and the sequence that he chooses to have, and it still works for the reader. So I'm going to do a review on this volume when I get a chance, after I finish reading it. And again, I'm enjoying the sequence, enjoying the reading, and as always, I enjoy Michael Moorcock, and especially the Elric novels. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed this short little video on Elric of Melnibone. And if you did, remember to do that thumbs up thing, click on the thumbs up. Thanks everyone for your subscriptions, and as always, feel free to make your comments. They're always appreciated. Thanks. Bye.